I was the charity case, the girl whose life was subsidized by a trust fund heiress. Then, without warning, she cut me off. With an empty bank account, I was staring down the barrel of a dropped-out future, destined for a life of grueling shift work. That was when a mechanical voice echoed in my head. Host, do you wish to bind with the spending system? The spending system requires you to spend money daily. On the first day, you will spend $1. On the second day, $2. On the third day, $4. Every subsequent day, the amount doubles. The daily spending task must be completed within 24 hours. Failure results in the deletion of the host. Some people are born with silver spoons in their mouths. They can afford to look down on money. I didn't have the luxury of skepticism. To stay in school, to keep from starving, I agreed. The cold, digital voice resonated again. Host Annie Miller, spending system successfully bound. Please spend $1 within 24 hours. As the voice faded, a single dollar appeared in my Venmo account. I used that dollar to buy 2 plain bagels from the cafeteria. Those 2 bagels were all I ate that day. I no longer had to act as Tiffany Townley's personal shadow, so I finally had the peace to actually study. Day 2, $2 arrived. I bought 2 breakfast burritos. Another day of not going hungry. Another day of quiet focus. Day 3, $4 arrived. I bought a full lunch special. For the first time, my stomach felt truly full, and I managed to finish all the backlogged assignments I've been too tired to touch. Day 4, $8 arrived. I treated myself to a double cheeseburger. The smell of the grilled beef was heavenly, and I actually let out a satisfied burp when I was done. Day 5, $16 arrived. I needed school supplies, which cost $15. That left me with only $1 for a pack of crackers. It was a hungry day, but my bag was finally stocked. Day 10, $512 arrived. For 10 straight days, the money had hit my account like clockwork. The sheer relief of not worrying about rent or bread was exhilarating. I decided to reward myself with a whole gourmet cheesecake. I'd never had real cake before. It was so sweet, so light, so rich. I ate the entire thing by myself until I was hiccuping from the sugar rush. Day 15, over $16,000 arrived. I finally bought a MacBook Pro and the newest iPhone. Day 20, over $520,000 arrived. I had never seen that many zeros in my life, and that was when the gravity of the situation hit me. My tuition, housing, and meal plan for the next 4 years were a drop in the bucket now. I started wearing the kind of clothes I used to be afraid to even look at in shop windows. Tomorrow, the amount would double again. I'd have to spend over $1 million. I was sitting there trying to figure out how to burn through $1 million when Tiffany Townley finally swiped back onto campus after a long absence. She clearly expected to find me a wreck, expected me to come crawling back, begging for her generosity. When she saw me in my new silk trench coat and designer boots, her eyes flashed with a mix of shock and predatory glee. Annie Miller? I stopped paying your bills, and you find yourself a sugar daddy? Look at you, selling out already. Everyone in our cohort knew I was Tiffany's project. I'd spent years doing her laundry and writing her notes, never daring to talk back. Seeing my sudden transformation, the rest of the class naturally assumed it was just more of Tiffany's charity, until she opened her mouth. The whispers started immediately. Annie, Tiffany's the one who kept you off the streets. How'd you manage to piss off your meal ticket? Poor thing, another girl sneered. I guess some people will do anything for a designer bag. Who's the old man, Annie? I saw her getting out of a black Escalade yesterday, looking totally disheveled. A guy from the back row piped up, his voice dripping with malice. We all know what that means. Hey, Annie, what's your hourly rate? I might have a few bucks to spare for a weekend. The guys started making crude jokes while the girls fanned the flames. She always acted like such a pure little wallflower. One whispered loud enough for me to hear. Turns out she's a pro. I saw her coming out of the wooded trail behind the dorms last night. Another lied through her teeth. Face all flushed, clothes a mess. It was obvious. Tiffany stepped forward, wearing a mask of faux pity. Annie, if you just admit you've lost your way, I'm willing to help you again. But you have to promise me, no more selling your body for a few bucks. They were all born with trust funds and safety nets. They'd never known a day of genuine hunger, yet they felt perfectly entitled to sit in judgment of my survival. I'd spent my childhood working for every scrap of bread. I'd been bullied and beaten for the crime of being poor. Back then, a single bagel was worth a bruise. In this moment, I was just grateful for the system. Without it, I might have actually become the person they were describing just to stay alive. My silence emboldened Tiffany. She pulled a $100 bill out of her Prada clutch and held it out like a dog treat. Tell you what, get down on your knees and apologize for being a liar. And this 100 is yours. Do it, Annie, someone shouted. That's like 200 bagels. That'll feed you for 2 months. 200 bagels? That's better than a straight dog eats. The room erupted in laughter. They all leaned in, waiting for me to break, waiting for the poor girl to bow to the heiress. Tiffany smirked. Another 3 apologies, and I might even pay your tuition this semester. The gazes of my classmates felt like stage lights, hot and suffocating. I remained perfectly calm, as if I hadn't heard a single word of the humiliation. I just tucked my textbook under my arm and turned to leave. Someone stepped in my way. Annie, don't be a bitch. She's offering you a lifeline. Oh, were you saying something? I pulled out my noise-canceling earbuds and looked at them with genuine confusion. Then I just walked past them. I could feel their stares burning holes into my back. Once I was far enough away, I actually smiled. For the first time, I realized what it felt like to watch a group of clowns from the audience. I had much more important things to do than waste time on them. I headed off campus toward the bus stop. Near the station, I saw a crowd gathered. An elderly woman was sitting on the pavement, clutching her leg and crying out in pain. People were watching, but no one was helping. Everyone was too afraid of being scammed or getting involved in a lawsuit. I walked over to help her, but an older man grabbed my arm. Careful, kid. Someone already called 911. The ambulance is coming. Don't touch her, or you'll be liable. I gave him a polite smile and knelt anyway. Ma'am, the ambulance is almost here. Just hold on. You're a good girl, the woman sobbed, gripping my hand tight. The paramedics arrived quickly. As they loaded her onto the stretcher, she wouldn't let go of my sleeve. Please, can you come to the hospital with me? Just until my son gets there? Please don't leave me alone. I hopped into the back of the ambulance. But the moment we hit the ER, the woman's entire demeanor shifted. You hit me, she shrieked the moment her feet touched the hospital floor. You knocked me down. You're paying for all of this. I had over $520,000 to spend today. As I went to the billing desk, the old woman watched me like a hawk from her gurney, terrified-eyed bolt. I had just finished paying a $20,000 deposit when her son burst in. Mom, what happened? She hit me, Leo. She tried to run, but I caught her. The people in the waiting room started whispering. Look at that girl, hitting an old lady and trying to bail. Kids these days have no hearts. The son moved toward me, looking like he wanted to get physical. I looked the old woman dead in the eye. Are you sure it was me? I'm positive. And how did I hit you? You were on one of those electric scooters. You mowed me down. I almost laughed. I didn't even own a scooter. Give me $100,000, the son demanded, and we won't press charges. Otherwise, I pulled out my phone and pulled up the payment app. The mother and son shared a quick, greedy glance and immediately hiked the price. $500,000, not a penny less. The bystanders who had been sympathizing with the woman were now staring in shock. Even if I had hit her, $500,000 was blatant extortion. They started looking at me with pity. I scanned the QR code and sent the $500,000 immediately. The son's phone buzzed. Notification. $500,000 received. I had $524,288 to spend today. I just dropped $520,000 on a scam. I had $4,288 left. I walked into the high-end mall next to the hospital and spent $2,000 on a luxury skincare set. That left me with $288. I saw a fancy steakhouse with a glowing neon sign and realized I'd never actually tasted a real steak. I ordered the most expensive ribeye on the menu. While I waited, I pulled up social media. A video of me at the hospital was already going viral. I had seen people filming at the hospital, and I knew it would blow up. There were witnesses at the bus stop and plenty of CCTV cameras. By paying the extortionate amounts so easily, I had created a massive contrast. The outrage would spread faster than any explanation could. I had a system that forced me to spend $500,000 today. To me, that money was a task to be checked off. But to those scammers, it was bait. You don't get to extort people for doing the right thing. $500,000 is a felony-level amount. It was enough to ensure they'd be dealing with the legal system for a long, long time. Besides, that mother-son duo gave me an idea. Spending a few bucks is easy. Spending hundreds of thousands, millions, billions. One person can only buy so many shoes. I needed a better way to move money. The steak arrived. It was tender and juicy, nothing like the gray mystery meat from the school cafeteria. As I was eating, a conversation at the next table caught my ear. A young man in a faded white button-down shirt was sitting stiffly across from a balding, portly man in a cheap suit. I recognized the student, Caleb North, a certified genius from the computer science department. I've looked over your pitch, Caleb, the older man said, his voice patronizing. It's creative. The circle concept is interesting, but you kids are too overconfident. These things take time, steps. The light in Caleb's eyes started to dim. I can offer you $20,000 for the entire IP. Right now. I'm sorry, Caleb said, his jaw tightening. That's not what I'm looking for. The spark of defiance was back. The fat man left a business card on the table and walked out, looking like he was certain Caleb would be calling him back once he realized he was broke. Seconds later, a polished, well-dressed girl walked up to the table. The girl looked down at Caleb with pure disappointment. Caleb, I'm done. You're obsessed with this stupid game, chasing some pipe dream that's never going to happen. Is this really how you want to live? I don't have to guess. I know. You failed to get the investment again, didn't you? Where are you going to grow up and face reality? Natalie, just give me a little more time. I know I can find a backer. Caleb reached for her hand, but she pulled away like he was contagious. We're done, Caleb. You're not the guy I thought you were. Natalie, wait. Just one more month, I can't stop. I'm engaged, Caleb. My fiancé has a real job. Don't call me again. She dropped a $100 bill on the table, the ultimate insult, and walked out. I had a sudden epiphany. I needed to spend money, and I needed professionals to do it for me. Caleb needed a runway for his dream. It was a perfect match. I finished my steak, logged into the university's internal directory, and found Caleb's contact info. I sent him a text. I'm interested in your project. What's your target for the seed round? I went to the restroom to wash my hands. When I came out, he had replied, how much are you looking to invest? I need at least $100,000 for the initial phase. If that's too much risk, we can negotiate a smaller stake. I replied, tomorrow at 11:00 a.m., the coffee shop across from campus. I saw the typing bubble appear and disappear for a while, but no more messages came through. I left the restaurant, bought some snacks, and took a lift back to school. I had $8 left, so I bought a boba tea. Today's quota, exactly zeroed out. I spent the evening eating snacks and feeling genuinely happy for once. When I got back to the dorm, my roommate, Chloe, blocked the door. Stop right there. Move, Chloe. Chloe and Lacey were Tiffany's loyal foot soldiers. They'd spent the last 3 years making my life a living hell because they knew I couldn't afford to fight back. But I wasn't that girl anymore. Lacey sneered, so out with it. What kind of dirty work are you doing to afford those clothes? Do you have eyes in your head? Or do you just use them to look for things to complain about? Tiffany stepped out from behind them, shoving her phone in my face. It was a hospital video. You might not be sleeping with old men yet, but you're clearly taking your frustrations out on helpless old ladies. Annie, you've really hit rock bottom without me. It's a shame. I hate seeing people bully the weak. So, I went ahead and leaked your dorm address to a few justice forums online. The internet is pretty fired up about that poor woman. You're in for a rough night. But hey, if you get on your knees and beg, maybe I'll give you a few $100 so you can skip town. Tiffany was a spoiled brat, and she had treated me like dirt, but she was technically the reason I was able to leave my small town and go to college. I had always held a shred of gratitude for that. Then my phone rang. Tiffany saw the caller ID, 911/police department. She started laughing, thinking I was about to be hauled away. I was actually stressed, but for a different reason. The police were calling to tell me they'd intercepted the scam and were returning my $500,000. If they gave it back, I'd be over my spending limit. I had to spend it again. The cops were way too efficient. On the way to the station, I summoned the system in my mind. The money was spent, but it's being returned. Does that count as a fail? Host, the money was spent. You have completed today's task. What about the returned funds? They will be placed in the host's personal slush fund. Wait, so if I spend money and it gets refunded, I just get to keep it as my own personal cash? Correct. The system has legalized all funds. There will be no issues. Holy crap. The system was a spending machine, but the returns were all mine. I was a girl with nothing, and suddenly I had a $520,000 personal savings account. I nearly skipped into the police station. The officers gave me a lecture about not rewarding bad behavior, and told me I was lucky they caught the scammers so fast. They handed me the paperwork to reverse the transfer and sent me on my way. When I got back to the dorm, Tiffany looked like she'd seen a ghost. You're back already? Did you hook up with the precinct captain to get out that fast? I didn't say a word. I just pulled up the updated news report, the one showing the old woman and her son being led away in handcuffs for fraud, and held it to her face. Read the room, Tiffany. Defamation is a crime. So what? You have $500,000? Where did it come from? Probably some sugar daddy with one foot in the grave. The room filled with their mocking laughter. I didn't care. Tiffany immediately posted that theory to the campus boards, claiming I was escorting. The comments were vile. The guys were making gross offers, and my roommates were adding eyewitness lies. The post was pinned to the top of the forum within an hour. I watched it happen and didn't lift a finger. The truth was out there. They were just choosing to ignore it. Arguing with people who want you to be the villain is a waste of breath. I put on my headphones and opened a textbook I'd been waiting weeks to borrow from the library. Tiffany lost it. She marched over, ripped the headphones off my head, and threw them against the wall. Annie, we don't want a slut in this dorm. Get your shit and get out. I looked at the broken headphones. I pulled up my digital receipt and the electronic invoice. Tiffany, those are $1,800. You owe me for the replacement. Bitch, you really think you could talk to me like that? She swung at me. I caught her wrist. When Chloe and Lacey tried to jump in, I dropped them both with 2 quick kicks to the shins. Tiffany, I put up with you for years because your family helped me. That debt is paid. Your sponsorship is over, which means I don't have to tolerate your bullshit anymore. If you touch me again, you're going to find out exactly how I survived in the trailer park. I grew up doing manual labor. I was stronger and tougher than all 3 of them combined. Tiffany's phone rang. It was her academic advisor, telling her to delete the post immediately. She just tossed her head back. I'm going to make sure Annie Miller is blacklisted from this school. I didn't hesitate. I dialed 911. Yes, I'd like to report a crime. My roommate, Tiffany Townley, is harassing me, spreading sexual slanders online, destroyed $1,800 worth of my property, and is currently threatening to have me illegally expelled. They thought I was bluffing until the officers actually showed up. Tiffany was speechless. Money can buy a lot of things, but it doesn't make you immune to a police report. They took her, Chloe, and Lacey down to the station for questioning. I couldn't fight 10,000 internet trolls, but I could deal with the source. The next morning, I went to my meeting. Caleb was already there, looking nervous and clutching a folder. I sat down. He blinked at me, then said politely, I think you have the wrong table, miss. I sent him a text. I'm here. He looked at his phone, then at me. Wait, you. I reached for the folder. He handed it over with both hands. I started reading. I wasn't a gamer, but the social circle mechanic he designed was genuinely brilliant. You said you needed at least 100,000. What's your ideal number? 500,000. I tapped the table. Caleb swallowed hard. I know $500,000 is a lot for a startup, but I can guarantee. I'll give you 7 million, I said, on the condition that I am the majority partner with a 60% stake. The number was so far beyond anything Caleb had imagined, he looked like he might faint. Then he hesitated. If he gave up 60%, he'd lose control of his baby. But if he didn't, the project would die, and a year of work would go down the drain. I won't interfere with operations. I added, you and your team run the show. I just want to make sure my first major investment doesn't get poached by some shark. Take a day to think about it. If I don't hear back, I'll find another project. You can actually put up 7 million. For now, if the metrics look good, I'll provide more. I need to make a call. I nodded. While he stepped outside to talk to his team, the waiter brought my coffee. By the time I finished the cup, Caleb was back. Why do you believe in us this much? Who knows what the future holds? I have the cash right now, and I want to build a portfolio. If it works, we're all rich. If it fails, I'm out 7 million. It's just business. Okay, I'm in. One more thing. I'm going to transfer the 7 million over the next 3 days. I want to see your team's momentum. If I'm not happy with the progress on day 1 or 2, I stop. But you get to keep whatever I've already sent as a kill fee. Caleb couldn't believe his ears. It was the most founder-friendly deal in history. I transferred $1 million immediately, marking it as tranche 1. Then I sent him another $40,000 in $8,000. Annie, what's this for? He was staring at the $1 million notification like it was a holy relic. $40,000 is for a branding and image overhaul for the team. $8,000 is for a celebration dinner tonight. That brought my spending for the day to $1,048,000. I had $576 left. Task complete. Shall we celebrate tonight? Definitely. I'll text you the address. I walked back to campus. It was Saturday and the library beckoned. After studying, I headed to the cafeteria for a simple meal, 1 side dish, a roll, and the free soup. Caleb and a few of his teammates walked in and spotted me. They saw my tray and frowned. Hey, what are you looking at? One of the guys asked Caleb. Oh, her? The girl from the viral video? The one who sued her roommates. She's smart, another guy added. Not many people have the guts to push back like that. Caleb watched me eat my humble meal. That's our lead investor. The guys nearly choked on their pizza. What? The charity case kid has $7 million to burn? And she's eating a $3 lunch. I was too focused on my book to notice them. I also didn't notice Caleb's ex-girlfriend, Natalie, hovering nearby, trying to beg for a second chance now that she heard he'd landed a massive investment. I got the text for the dinner location, a nice spot near campus. On the way, I bought an expensive cake to hit my final spending target. While I walked into the private room, Caleb and 3 other guys stood up immediately. We talked shop and as the night went on, the awkwardness faded into excitement about the game. On the way back to the dorm, I saw Tiffany getting out of a luxury SUV. Her dad had clearly chewed her out. She saw me with 4 guys and immediately snapped a photo. An hour later, a post appeared on the campus boards with the title, "One Girl, 4 Guys, Annie's New Business Model." I saw it while I was in bed. It was full of AI-generated, explicit photos of me. They were obviously fake. The proportions were all wrong, but didn't stop the comments from being disgusting. I did a quick search. Cyber harassment and deepfake distribution were serious crimes. Whoever was doing this was throwing their future away just to spite me. Tiffany was the obvious suspect. In the age of digital footprints and IP tracking, anonymous wasn't real. But I didn't have time to play games with her. I had to spend more money. 2 days later, the full $7 million was in Caleb's business account. I also bought a Tesla for the team to use for meetings. During the celebration, I looked across the street at a massive luxury apartment complex called Evergreen Heights. It had been built 2 years ago, 560 units, all around 900 square feet. But with the recent housing market dip, the developer was struggling to fill them. I did the math. 560 units at roughly $1 million each. That was over $500 a million. That was a few days' worth of doubling for the system. People were struggling with rent, drowning in debt. If I bought the whole thing and capped the rent at $600 a month, I could change the lives of 560 families and solve my spending problem for a week. The next day, I walked into the leasing office and asked for the manager. Manager Sterling looked exhausted. He hadn't sold a unit in a month. When he saw me, a college kid in a hoodie, his face fell. "Can I help you, miss?" "Mr. Sterling, how many units are still available at Evergreen Heights?" "All of them. If you're looking for a specific floor plan, I'll take them all. Give me a price for the whole complex." Sterling laughed. He thought I was a prankster from a rival firm. "Look, kid, I don't have time for this. I have $8 million for the deposit right now," I said, looking him in the eye. "The rest will be paid within 10 days. If you can't handle a deal of this scale, I'm sure your competitors will be happy to take my call." Sterling's skepticism died the moment his secretary ran in, breathless. "Sir, and $8. 38 million wire just cleared into the escrow account." I showed him my phone. Actually, it was $8. 38 million exactly. Sterling immediately hung the close sign on the door. We spent the afternoon on paperwork. He was terrified I was just a rich kid on a whim, but the money was real. I told him the plan. $600 fixed rent for people in need. He looked at me like I was insane. "You'll never make your money back, even in 100 years. "I don't need to make it back," I said. "I just need the units managed. If you're interested, you're the new property manager. I'll give you a $50,000 bonus right now to oversee the transition." He took the job on the spot. Word got out. A few days later, a developer named Mr. Garrison reached out through Sterling. He had a half-finished mid-rise project that had stalled when the market crashed. He was desperate to sell. I met him at a high-end restaurant. While I walked in, an older man with silver hair was already there. He looked familiar. "I think you have the wrong room, young lady," he said kindly. Sterling arrived and cleared up. Garrison was stunned. We made a deal in under an hour. As I was leaving, Garrison's driver opened the door for me. Tiffany Townley was walking out of the same restaurant. She saw me being ushered into a chauffeured car by a millionaire developer. The rumors shifted from escort to trophy wife of a geriatric billionaire. Back at the dorm, Tiffany was already telling everyone. He's old enough to be her grandpa. They were all over each other at the restaurant. It was disgusting. "How much money does he even have?" Lacey asked. "He looks like a hobbit with a hairpiece," Tiffany sneered. "Probably just some lonely old guy she's milking." I recorded her entire rant and sent it to her father. 10 minutes later, her phone erupted with her dad screaming. Tiffany turned pale and stepped into the hallway to answer. My other 2 roommates, Chloe and Lacey, finally seemed to realize that I wasn't the easy target I used to be. They started avoiding me. I didn't care. The money hitting my account was now in the hundreds of millions. I was a whale in the financial world. I got a text from Sterling. "Congratulations, Ms. Miller. You are now the sole owner of Evergreen Heights." But I was hit with a new problem. Doubling billions of dollars was becoming impossible to do manually. Then, a new number called me. It was Ms. Bennett from the Bennett Foundation. They'd heard about my low-income housing project and wanted to see if I'd be interested in philanthropy. I texted her back. "I can't talk on the phone, but I'm interested. Send me an account number, and I'll send a donation tomorrow." She insisted on a meeting to show me where the money would go. I declined. I just needed to move the cash. I started donating, millions, then tens of millions. But even that wasn't enough to keep up with the doubling. I needed professionals. I found a top-tier venture capital firm called Harrison & Co. I met with the CEO, Mark Harrison, and told him I wanted to park my capital there for aggressive social impact investing. The Annie Miller name started becoming a legend in the city. I donated 2 new science buildings to the university. The dean was so grateful, he gave me a private suite in the faculty housing complex. I finally had my own space. No Tiffany, no drama. I barely saw Tiffany anymore. I heard her family's company, Townley Corp., was on the verge of bankruptcy after a major investor pulled out. Her dad was trying to force her into an arranged marriage with some hedge fund creep to save the business. I didn't like Tiffany, but she was the reason I got out of my hometown. I couldn't ignore that debt. I called Mark Harrison. Invest in Townley Corp. Give them whatever they need to stabilize, but make it a silent partnership. By the end of the year, the legacy was everywhere. Caleb's Game, Circle, was the #1 app in the country. Evergreen Heights was a model for affordable housing. The Bennett Foundation had saved thousands of families. Then, one morning, the system spoke. Host, congratulations. The mission is complete. The system has been unlinked. I actually laughed. The system had been glitching for months because I was spending the money faster than it could double. I spent the next several years building. Evergreen Heights expanded to 10 different cities. We provided housing for over 11,000 families. The Bennett Foundation funded rural schools and clinics across the country. My VC firm saved hundreds of small businesses from being eaten by predatory corporations. And through it all, I stayed in school. I got my master's, then my PhD. I loved the university. It was the place where I went from being a charity case to being the woman who owned the buildings. After graduation, I stayed on as a professor. Once, a student asked me why a woman with my wealth didn't just retire to a private island or get married. I grew up in a house without love. I didn't know how to find it in a partner. The only genuine kindness I'd ever felt came from my teachers. So now I stand at the podium. I look out at a room full of students, some wealthy, some poor, some just trying to find their way. I teach them the most important lesson I learned. Money is just a tool. It's what you build with it that matters. I'm passing on the gift my teachers gave me, and in doing so, I've finally found my own version of home. Story complete.